He wants the name.
I call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council. Having taken roll and having a quorum, we will proceed with this evening's agenda items. Before we begin this evening on our agenda and before we get to the public forum, we are going to take some time and we are going to recognize some outstanding Vienna citizens that are here for the hockey team, ping pong, paddleball, pickleball, foosball. What are you guys here doing this evening?
Double.
All right, so somebody needs to tell them what sport they've been playing for the last couple of minutes. No, we are here to recognize this evening the two great teams from our 6th grade. Both our boys and girls basketball team both won their county championships.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to take some time and we're going to recognize each of them this evening. If I can get the girls team to come up, I know that you guys have got some stuff that you've got to run off and do. Come on. Now, how many people were in the stands when you guys were competing?
Oh, I can read them, yeah.
Right? More than this. Right? So what's your name?
Peyton.
What position do you play?
Post. Payson. Post.
What was the name? We're family.
Payson.
She had to remember there for a second. Act like you guys ain't ever been in front of anybody. What's your name?
Collins.
We may get through this evening and we may not. Who knows?
Emerson.
Emerson. Why did you guys act like you were guessing? I don't know. I think it is. So there are how many on your team?
10.
10. So we're missing a few.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to get through these. You want to come help me with that?
Yeah.
Teresa is going to read the names, and obviously we're going to have to burn through 6 of them at some point. And these 4 are having trouble remembering their names. So we're going to get through it. So we're going to read all the names, even if they are here. We'll ask that you hold any applause till the end, but we want to recognize everyone, and we'll make sure their certificates get to them as well. And the certificate that they'll be getting tonight, it's the Mayor's Award of Excellence, and it says, presented to you, and it'll have your name on it, and it says, in recognition of your exceptional achievement given this day on March 13th, 2025, signed Mayor Chad Emmerich, and it has our official city seal stamped on that. So, all right. Teresa, go ahead.
Charlotte Eckel.
Not present.
Is it Hayden Kimes?
Is that you?
Emerson Chrysler. Payson Hart. Alexis Aliff.
Not present.
Collins Rader.
All right. As she reads the rest of them, we're just going to go ahead and read through them so everyone can hear.
Chloe Casta. Molly Walk. Morgan Greer. And Gabby Lynch. We're going to take a picture now, okay? Facing this direction.
They're good at that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm going to face that. Congratulations. All right, you guys don't have to stay. Yeah, if you want to can you get those to the rest of them?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, let's get the guys up here. Jimmy, Christmas, you got Jamie 24. All right, there ain't no flopping, there's no fouls to be called during City Hall. All right. So evidently he was practicing the flop, right?
Yeah.
So you're really good at shooting the foul shot then, right?
No.
No, oh no, I'm just good at the flopping. So, all right. You guys won too, right?
Yeah.
Right? All right, what's your name?
Owen.
David. Janie. Julian. Cole. Mason.
Dom.
What?
Dom.
Oh, okay.
Parker.
Judah.
Will. Trip. Owen. Nikita.
We're gonna get through this, I promise. All right.
Cheney Brown. Ethan Slavrakis.
Not here.
Not present.
Julian Loudon. Dom Van Dyke.
Good job, buddy.
Cole Purdue. Parker Edwards. Isaiah Wright. Ethan Mounts. Mason Lawton. David Fowdy. Owen Taylor. Trip Davis. Owen Beaver. Will Crawford. Judah Bumgarner. Nikitas Vasilikas.
And that's why I had Teresa read all the names. We are, exceptionally proud of both our teams and of course all of the kiddos that compete in all of these sports. With everything, sometimes there's winners, sometimes there's losers. Sometimes you're on top and sometimes you're not. But you guys dedicated the work, you did what you needed to do, and you came out victorious. So congratulations, and we're proud of each and every one of you. We want to get our...
Some of you may have to go back.
Kind of squeeze in. I'm going to stand up here behind you guys. Maybe on my tiptoes too. Anybody got a booster?
Okay, ready? Make sure we can see you.
Get it out. Oh, there you go.
Nope. All right, there you go. Thank you.
Anyway, hold on.
Great.
Are we good? All right. And thanks to all the parents and everybody that came out. You're welcome, boss. How you doing? Good to see you.
You got some pretty good
Thanks for coming, brother. We'll see you over the church this afternoon. Not too bad, how are
Would
you?
anybody notice if I snuck out the side of it, we got something,
Not too bad, how are you? Chris, how are you? Not too bad.
All right, moving on through our agenda, our next item up is our public forum. We have 4 individuals that have signed up this evening to participate in our public forum, the first of which, Ethel Harris.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's such a nice evening to be out, so maybe Chad may not make you stay too long.
Depends on how long you talk, Ethel.
Well, give me my 5 minutes tonight, because I got my timer running. Don't you cheat me tonight. But first off, I was at Applebee's eating today, and I've been getting these complaints from people about how bad it looks down there as you're sitting there in Applebee and you look out at Grand Central, there at Pond Run where the creek goes through. looks like a garbage dump. People's going up through there throwing their trash out. It's going down into the water, but the bank is loaded with it. And I do have pictures of it. If I only knew how to work this contraption you got here.
I actually drove out today and looked at it.
Pardon?
I actually drove out today and looked at it.
Did you? Good. So I was talking to the manager. I said, people think it's an Applebee's. It isn't. It's people throwing out their trash. And it looks absolutely terrible from there at Applebee's driveway up to the 9th Street. So I was wondering if it'd do any good even after y'all get it cleaned up, if you would put a sign up, anyone caught throwing trash will be fined or put in jail. That'd be a pretty sign for Vienna, but at least people know you're trying to keep it clean. So I did want to bring that to your attention tonight. And the other thing was, I see on the agenda tonight is the approving the position of for Jack. No disrespect, Jack. Love you dearly. But that's from a year ago. It's been a year ago. Is that right to bring it up that you're going to give him maybe it's going to be voted on again, or whether he's going to get that $25,000 for the project development coordinator? So anyway, I think that we should put things on hold till we really know what we got. I mean, I think we got a big old mess with the swimming pool to start with that we're going to have to take control of. And some of these other things that really needs to be done. So before you start giving out raises, I think we should put a freeze on it. That's just me thinking. I do too much of that probably, and I'm sure you believe that too. But that's beside the point. It's something we need to stop and think about. So that was what I was up here for tonight. I didn't use my full 5 minutes, so I'll take the next 3 minutes in 2 weeks. Thank you. I'll turn my phone off now.
Next up, we have Henry Sassy.
Henry Sasson, 1307 Greenmont Hills Drive in Vienna. Mayor, fellow council members, citizens of Vienna. Last week during our special council meeting session, we were hearing from the department heads about certain expenses that were being applied for and the funds that were being allocated to it. The engineer that I am, I went back home over the weekend and started to look and see what can we do to fix things. As I always have with my wife, she'll talk to me and then she'll say something's wrong and I try to fix it. That's not always the right thing if you're a spouse to do. But in this situation, it is. So as I was going through the numbers, and this is a crude way of doing this because the last time I tried to use my computer here, it wouldn't connect. So basically the city's got $11.8 million on the budget, okay? That was the last numbers that we had. If you go through and look at salaries and benefits, that's 6.1 million bucks basically. So you're down to 51.3% of the total budget is for salaries and compensation before anybody goes out the door to do anything. To that, you add another $2.8 million for contract services, 800 some, which is loans and so forth. So what does that leave you? Roughly 25% of the total budget that the city has to work with to do something. When you go through and wonder why streets is only getting $600,000 or $700,000, this is why. Why are we waiting on funding for grants to do Ponds Run? This is why. Going through, I talked about debilitated homes last week. Guess what? We're a debilitated city. It's going to come to the point where the income is not going to cover the expenses. We as city council are responsible. We shouldn't turn our back like prior administrations. I'm not kicking that can down the road, nor should any of you. This is something that we inherited. We are responsible. So if we want to be good financial stewards of our taxpayers' money, it's up to us to fix this and get the city back on track. What does that mean? We need to have that meeting next Thursday as a special session. Why? So everyone in this room can look and say, what do we have to do to make a change? We need to do a structurally different change in approach. No more of the same old, same old. Thank you. Oh, one last piece. I forgot about this. Going through, the city currently has 79 employees full-time, 11 part-time. In 2016, between 2012 and 2016, it went from 62 full-time employees to 78. The city population has been flat. That, as a full-time employees onto the costs and expenditures for everything, is $1.12 million. That's a huge hit. I'm sure that Mr. Metz can use $1.12 million on roads and stuff to pave and replace, the pipes in the city. So I thank you.
Jack Heater.
Good evening. I'm Jack Heater, 4301 Standardwood Place. I come here to approach the council tonight about the police department. On February the 22nd, unfortunately, the car decided. I live at the end of Standardwood Place. If you don't know where Standardwood is, it's a dead-end street off of 46th Street. I live at the very last house on Standardwood on the right. So sometime during the night, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, the car decided to go from 9th Avenue to 8th Avenue, which it can't be done because there's no road through there, without tearing down my chain link fence, which they did. Tore down my chain link fence, went through my lawn, and went on down Standardwood, never stopped. During that process, the city has one of these great big concrete-filled baluster things at the end of the street, so cars can't go that way. Well, it went that way, knocked it over. But anyway, so Sunday morning when I discovered it, I got on the phone and called the police department. Quick response. Officer Mintz, Patrol Mintz came out, real courteous, young fellow. I was really impressed with the response he made. I was looking for a report to turn into homeowners. That's all I was asking for. Was someone doing their report so I turned to homeowners. They were far above that. They took their time. They surveyed the neighborhood. They looked for cameras. They looked for from 8th Avenue to 9th Avenue to see if they could find any witnesses. Of course, 2:30 in the morning, they didn't have any witnesses. And unfortunately, we didn't have any cameras other than one that showed a black vehicle, but that's all we could see going through there. So tonight I want to thank the police department for the city of Vienna. I know it's a small token. They spent a lot of time. They spent at least 2 hours working on that. And I appreciate that. But police departments never get a thank you. They always get criticized or blamed, why don't you do this? So tonight, I do want to thank them, the patrolman Mink especially, and the sergeant, I'm sorry I forgot his name, showed up. In fact, he's there twice on Sunday afternoon. So thank you for that.
Sir, and I will assure that our chief gets that information and relays it to them, and we recognize them for their high standard of service. We can never say enough of thank yous and praise for all of our emergency responders, fire, police, ambulance. We owe them a great amount of gratitude, and it's always nice to hear thank you, so I'm sure they will appreciate that this evening. Thank you very much.
Don't forget Public Works.
Yeah.
They get up in the middle of the night. They go.
That is true. You were 100% correct, and we do love Public Works, especially when things aren't working and they come out and they fix them and we can get back up and running again. So obviously we thank everybody within the city, but thank you for that reminder. Steve Black.
Good evening, folks, and I'm going to be brief. Steve Black, 510 33rd Street, Vienna, but I'm here tonight as the Parks Director for the city. I just want to start by addressing a few rumors and try to put them to rest. This has been going on since pre-election. Neither Linda Kern nor myself are planning to retire anytime soon. Slowly getting tired of hearing that. I'm also not interested in becoming either the finance director nor the public works director, because I've heard that and it's coming back to me as well. Amy got me through the finance director years ago, and there's no way I would even consider what Craig does. But anyway, I just want to briefly mention a couple things, and I'm going to read so I don't screw this up. You folks up here on the elected officials are fortunate to have the resources available to work with. Most of the department heads, that's the resources I'm talking about, have been employed for several years, one over 40 years. There's a wealth of practical knowledge and experience to ensure that the budget process is a smooth one. I personally, I'm not going to speak for the other department heads, but I do understand the mayor's position with the budget numbers and capital projects. Took me a little bit to process things, but it is a solid plan. Then put yourselves in my position at least. I'm working with 6 new elected officials and 1 carryover. Sorry, Jim, it's the best I could come up with.
You're a
I couldn't call me
carryover.
leftover.
Yeah.
I continue to make myself available for questions, but I've been told that I'm not too easy to deal with, and I totally disagree with that. I try my best to help others and answer questions whenever I can. Furthermore, the city of Vienna has several amazing people working within the various departments. And I actually had a conversation with one of the department heads the other day who referred to working in the city as being part of a family. And I've thought more and more about that. There's more people that are employed with the city that actually feel that way. So it is a pretty good group. And then in summary, the point that I want to make is that you have great resources with a solid system to work with. I'd recommend evaluating things moving forward, and if changes are needed, working them together. Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes from the special council meeting on March 6, 2025 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Do we have any corrections to the minutes? Good job. If not, the minutes will stand approved as posted. Councilman Sassen, you have our treasurer's report.
Yes, sir. I reviewed the reconciliation of funds dated March 11th and a short budget report, I should say, at a high level, and the accounts appear to be in order. Vienna is okay to pay its bills for the time being.
Moving on, we have no unfinished business. Under new business, the first item on our agenda is the bid approval for Nolan Services for the city's cleaning contract.
Do you have it? Well, we didn't prepare a formal resolution, but I have a memorandum here that shows that the city of Vienna accepted sealed bids for the cleaning of various city buildings that were open February 28, 2025 at 10 a.m. with the following results. Nolan Services LLC at $6,250 per month. Cassie's Cleaning at $8,400 per month. After careful review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council approval from the Budget and Finance Committee for the cleaning of various buildings is Nolan Services LLC at $6,250 per month. This project will be funded from various funds and departments.
Do I have a motion accepting the bid approval for Nolan Services?
Yes, I do.
I have a motion and a second. Having a motion and a second, opening now for questions.
You seconded.
I'm sorry, Councilman Ditzler. Go ahead, Henry. Oh, I'm sorry.
At the Budget and Finance meeting this past week, I brought up 3 points that aren't in the document. I don't know if they were relayed, but I bring them up with council. Number 1 was, if the people are coming in for cleaning service, they're going to be in sensitive areas. We should make sure that number 1's ground or bounded, I should say. I know that we ensure that our cleaning services where we work, they're bonded. I believe the same ought to be the case here. The second item is if they're finding something that's broken or needs repairs, they should, report it and bring it to our attention. And the third thing is if one of their employees gets hurt while they're working on our premises, we need to be informed. Those are missing.
What you're looking at here is the specification that was sent out for bid. If council approves this bid, they're required to sign a contract, and those things, if I haven't already put them in, will be or could be placed in the contract. They're also required, in addition to the reporting, one of the requirements is, of course, that they have workers' compensation insurance. As far as reporting injuries, I mean, I think as a courtesy, that's not, I don't think that's out of the question. One of the things you try to do is to avoid avoid control over how an independent contractor conducts their work. The IRS looks at things, and I'm not saying that this would be a dispositive qualification or term, but one of the things IRS looks at is time. Does the contractor, does the person who is paid for the contract or solicited the contract, are they controlling time, place, and location of the work? And so I try to be careful when I write these that we don't accidentally turn contracted or independent contractors into employees. But I think the things that you're saying are not unreasonable, and I'll certainly look at them when I do the final version of the contract.
I thank you. And where we work, or I should say where I work, it's in everything. Anybody that's a contractor that comes in, whether it's, a company from Mincer bottled water coming in to bring water bottles into the plant, people, clean, whatever, there's a guideline. We as a city should have the same thing.
We won't have the exact same provisions, but we'll have many of the same provisions that private employers will we'll have many similar provisions that private employers will engage in, private contractors will engage with their contractees. So I appreciate your suggestions.
I have a question, and it may go along with that. On pages 10 and 11, there's a form, it's official bid form for the monthly charge of cleaning the various buildings, and then the file information. Are those blank because we haven't gotten to that point of voting on this yet, or? No,
those are blank because what you have attached is the form specification that was sent out to solicit bids. What you have is a memorandum that shows what the total value or number will be, and then it will be up to the contract to divide that number between the 4 different buildings or areas that are going to be cleaned up. They all have to add up to the $6,250. So yeah, what you're looking at is just what we send out, or what the city sends out when they're soliciting this particular type of bid.
Okay, great, thanks.
Councilman Disney. I just want to echo Russ's concern that we have to watch what we do when we got an independent contractor. If we stick our nose in too far, they're not going to be an independent contractor, then we're going to be responsible for everything. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Russ.
Having no other discussion and having had a motion and a second, hello everyone's here this evening. All those in favor of approving the acceptance of the bid, signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 2 is the internal budget revision number 3.
And there's 2 things to do on this. $6,000 is being moved from 2 line items. There's $3,000 from auto supplies and $3,000 from training and education towards building and grounds to repair a broken gas line or a leaking gas line. And there's another one where $10,000 is being moved from group insurance, and out of that 10, 8,000 is going to materials and supplies, 1,000 is going to auto supplies, and the other one's for uniforms where funds are needed.
Do I have a motion to accept internal budget revision number 3? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, open for discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of accepting internal budget revision number 3 signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 3 on our agenda this evening is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of an agreement between the Wood County Economic Development Authority and the City of Vienna in the amount of $75,000. Do I have a motion?
So
And we have a second with Mr. Disler. Having a motion and a second, opening up for discussion.
I have some questions and comments and concerns. On the first page of the resolution, and what I found was what was given out and done in 2024 is the same as in the 25 information today. So on the resolution itself, in the second paragraph, it says the purpose of this agreement, then goes down with a particular focus on the former OVU property, the former Johns Manville property, and then it goes on to say the downtown district and other opportunities. We need to reword that or take that out, because like I said, this is from 2024. It's not the OVU property anymore. And the former Johns Manville property, we've got Spencer's Landing and we've got the production side, and there's been progress in both of those. So this is it's just a leftover from last year that wasn't changed.
Well, if I may address that now.
You may go ahead. I was going to say both of those are former properties. Both of these actually stand to be accurate. It is the former OVU property, and it is also, although we have the Spencer's Landing and the production side, together it is the former John Manville's property.
Yeah, I mean, really the intent of that, I understand what you're saying about the language, and any agreement that we may have may reflect the more current or the current names of those properties. But the intent of this resolution is to let council know what properties that we're talking about. So if there's some confusion about whether it's the former OVU property or not, or the former Johns Manville property, what those two parcels or groups or collections of property, what that means, we certainly can change it, but there's no need to, I don't think there's a need to change it. This document is just to approve the general, to approve the agreement that we have and that Ms. Pearsall is going to work on it. And in addition to that, there is the catch-all provision that says opportunities that may arise within the city for business development consideration, and that covers, a lot of things. So really, as long as the parties understand that the parcels that we're talking about, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying your point is not well taken, but really, as long as council knows what it is we're talking about, then this is fine. But yes, you are correct. It is the exact same resolution that I used last year.
Right. Thank you for explaining that. And then, in the actual document, and I didn't see an actual contract that was signed anywhere in the minutes or anything.
Yeah, there hasn't been a contract drafted yet. What this is we have a proposal of a professional services agreement for the city of Vienna. And if you look at that where it says Wood County Economic Development, that's a general outline of what the scope of services and duties and consideration will be. I intend to draft a formal contract memorializing at least some part of that, putting some other things in there as far that won't cost additional funds, that just kind of have to be in agreements. But realistically, you're approving this in principle. And to be fair, I'm waiting for Ms. Pearsall and the Development Authority and Mr. Bays, their counsel, to talk to me about finalizing the actual terms of the agreement. But as long as you trust that I'm not going to turn this agreement from a $75,000 agreement, because that's all the authority you're giving me, or change the material scope of services, then it shouldn't have to come back to council to be an issue. But you are correct, there is not a formal contract, this is just a proposal.
Well, no, I'm sorry I wasted so much time on this today. However, this is the same one that was, you know, it's the
Yes,
same one from.
Same one from last year.
Okay, so, you know, will we get to see this again when it's updated before?
What part do you want to see again?
Well, because like, okay, so like on the second page, there should be in this section a B, because it's in the next page, but it's not there.
B, development, planning, coordination, and implementation.
Yeah, actually on the next page, B is, yeah, the development, yes, and it's not on that outline. Anyway, going on, under the dilapidated properties, it has vitrolite and the previous owner, and I think all of those were struck last year on the list of the properties, because I think that came up, or maybe it was down here on Needle Road. That's what it was, because that was Mr. Leach's. And Raps, they were gonna take that out, but then Raps said didn't take the whole section out.
Yeah. What?
So we're clear, this is not the contract.
Yes, we are.
So there's no real need, because all of those things can be addressed in the actual written contract.
Right, that's what I was asking, would we see it, and then Russ
Right.
asked me a question.
If council wants me to bring a finalized draft of the contract back for approval, that's certainly something that can be done.
I would like to see it just because there's so many questions that, I mean, not even council, you know, I think that I would like to see it just because, I mean, there's so many things that just maybe need clarified. Is that an issue?
No, I am just the attorney. I serve at the will and pleasure of the city and council. If council is asking me to bring them additional information, I'm certainly willing to do that, including a draft of the contract.
Mr. Ditzler?
Tammy, I understand and agree with everything you're raising. My concern is that the Wood County Development Authority is able to get this, to keep things going right now, and I don't want to delay that. They have done such a good job of moving things forward, and if we delay this, then it delays their work on our behalf. So I hate to put it off. I think we should do what Russ said, just go ahead and pass it as it is right now.
I agree totally. I wasn't saying to delay it at all. I think the Wood County Economic Development Authority does a great job. I think we get way more than what we pay for from them. I'm so pleased with what Lindsay has done and where we are. It is just the fact that I just wanted to make sure, I mean, we're gonna vote on this tonight. So just looking at what the contract is later, not to make changes that would be anything substantial or material to it. I would just like to see it just because there's so many things in this last one that for this year I question. I just want to make sure that, that's all.
And that's fine, but understand that the dollar amount or the value isn't going to change. So,
Right.
I mean, I guess in theory, the more work, the things that you take out of it is the less work that they have to do to earn the money.
It's not really taking anything out, it's just clarifying things.
Do we have any other discussion? Having none, having a motion and a second, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4 is the approving of the position and appointing Jack Mathis to the City of Vienna Project Development Coordinator. Do I have a motion to accept resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second, open for discussion. Mr. Sassy.
As I spoke in a public forum, before we put anybody in a new position, we really ought to.
This isn't a new position. This is an existing position.
And just so I'm clear, this isn't a position per se like a temporary or a part-time employee or employee. You're consulting with an independent contractor and you're engaging his services as is set out in the contract. So if the contract ends, that ends the obligation. When the contract ends, that ends our obligation. So if it ends after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or however, it's not like some of the other positions that we have where there's I don't want to say an obligation to fill, but you would have a job description and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's just an independent contract.
This has been a past expensive.
This has been. It started last year.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I have some things. The first thing that I question is a resolution to engage Mathers Forced Consulting. And this is for an economic development position. The Secretary of State designation for the consulting business is 1131. It's agriculture, forestry, fishing, hunting, forestry and logging, and timber tract operations. I just feel like the way it was last year, hiring Jack Mathers instead of using the LLC that doesn't really have anything to do with economic development.
He's not working economic development. It's special projects.
I know, but it's part of economic development, isn't it?
With what Jack Mathers does for the city, no. I can tell you that a lot of what Mr. Mathers does for the city does relate exactly to what his licensing does as far as the development of land and projects and various things that goes on. The majority of the projects that he is currently working right now tie hand in hand with that. And I'm not defending. I'm just stating the facts. He's not focusing so much on economic development as a whole solely focused, but he's working special programs within the city that have great impact on the development of parcels of property that we have that can be related to in and around McDonough Park, Spencer's Landing, and various things that go along with that. So I just want to be clear on, we know that these things are a benefit, both because it says in the resolution, cultural, economic, residential opportunities. But Mr. Mathers isn't going out and trying to get new businesses to come into Vienna, but rather provide opportunities through the development of properties and parcels of property that we have to be able to do that.
I guess when reading this resolution, when it talks about, assist with evaluating current occupancy, use of commercial properties, focusing on unoccupied and dilapidated buildings from 9th to 34th Street, accept special project assignments from the mayor's office, including promoting the city of Vienna as a relocation destination. This provision is designed to supplement and complement the activities of the Wood County Economic Development Contract that is currently in effect.
That's correct. And we went through all this last year when we did this. The vehicle that Jack Mathers is using to be an independent contractor is his LLC, okay? His LLC is authorized to conduct any business that's lawful in the state of West Virginia. With respect to the duties he's engaged in, they can vary depending on what, he liaises with the mayor, takes direction from him, but it's just like I have multiple LLCs. And I do things within those LLCs as long as it's a legal business entity, and that's, if you look at the state code. So this was the appropriate vehicle to maintain the appropriate legal relationship between Jack's LLC and the city of Vienna as reflected in the agreement. So this was well thought out and considered before we did this, and there's nothing untoward or inappropriate about the efforts that he's engaged in for the city of Vienna as I think, the sole member of his LLC.
Yeah.
So we went all through this.
Yeah, you're contracting with the LLC to get the services that Mr. Mathers has. And that's the way that he chooses to do business under that LLC, as opposed to doing business as a private entity or a non-business entity. And so that's in order to acquire the services that Mr. Mathers provides as are set out in this agreement, the services that he's going to provide to the city. We contract with the LLC because that's how he conducts his business. But the intent is to get the services and special skills, contacts, knowledge, and so forth that Mr. Mathers provides. And that's what the agreement is. So I understand that the LLC is how it's set up, but it's his business. He conducts his business how he wants, and this is the vehicle which he uses to do that. But he's limited to how the business that he conducts for the city is limited to what's in the agreement.
Okay, I just didn't know why it changed from him as a person to an LLC, but
If-
the way you're explaining it is fine.
If I were to do it, if I were to go out and hang up my shingle as a lawyer, I would put Skogstead Law Offices PLLC. And I would do that for tax reasons, I would do that for liability reasons, because I don't want, if I do something as my business, and my business gets sued, I want to keep my house, right? And so the LLC and the PLLC and all that stuff is a shield that allows them to do that. So
Yeah,
I don't know if that's why Mr. Mathers does it, it's none of my business.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter, I'm just asking questions, because some things I look at and I don't even understand why they're there, so, it's not a problem. The one thing I would like to say, because when I read through this, there were several sections that said, like reports to council and everything. And Jack, I think you do a great job, this isn't about you personally, or the job that you do or anything. But like with all the other nonprofits that came before council asking for, donations, and with Jack's contract and the fact that he's a special contractor for the city, I think we sometimes ask more of other nonprofits. Like, well, what are you spending this on? Why did you? I know. I said the other nonprofit. Well, I shouldn't have said other. The nonprofits that come to. Anyway, I would just like to see, if possible, that maybe quarterly or something like that, Jack can come to council and tell us what he's been working on, and if there's things to say, and if there's not, it's like there's no developments. It's not a big deal, but I would like to hear that, and I would like to see where we're progressing in the city and the things that we're working on, unless it's something confidential, and that happens, so you can't tell anyone about those things because it could, harm them or someone else. But I would just, anyway, that's what I would like. I know that's, anyway, so under services provided, it mentions in section A2(1), it says Spencer's Landing continue with the development plans at Spencer's Landing, which are to include receipt and review of the economic impact study currently being prepared by WDUP. Now there's a lot of things like that in here. Are those okay worded like that?
Yeah, like I said, the way we do some of these contracts, if you look at, particularly this one, if you look at paragraph 3 of the same thing, it says the services will also include any other consulting tasks the parties may agree on. The consultant hereby agrees to provide such services to the client. So I try to keep, with some of these things, I try to remain flexible to allow the city to operate within the terms of the agreement. But things come up that Jack that may benefit the city, that he can work on. And so rather than him saying, well, that's not in the contract, we put a provision in there and Jack does the work.
I was just wondering about the one that was the economic impact study, because it's still in there from the last.
It is, to prepare recommendations based on input from the EIS, the city council, community input, past and future, independent research by the consultant, other available resources. The idea is to have Mr. Mathers continue to look at Spencer's Landing and how it can be developed, or if not even necessarily developed, I don't want to say something that hasn't or isn't going to happen, but if it could be developed, or it could be designed to better as a park, or maybe the city decides to sell it at some point or whatever. But it allows Mr. Mathers the opportunity and the flexibility to go ahead and look at those things.
Okay, that's great. Just a comment that I want to make. Where it's talking about unoccupied, dilapidated buildings, work with stakeholders in city council and planning commission. I would love for you to come to the planning commission when we have meetings and see what you're doing, and you can see what planning commission may be doing or something. I think that would be a great collaboration between two people kind of aiming at the same thing.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I've already been talking with Kevin about several things that I think he's going to bring forth to the planning commission. So
Great,
I'm more than happy to go.
wonderful. And then this year, instead of a 1-year contract, it's a 3-year contract?
Well, it's 3 1-year contracts. At the end of each contract, they automatically renew unless there's notification by the parties or council elects not to fund it. But the idea was that you do 3 1-year contracts, they automatically renew. But if council wanted to end them, or if the contract, everybody wanted to end it after the first year or the second year or the third year. That way you can keep Mr. Mathers in the position for up to 3 years. And if he wants to stop doing it, he can stop doing it. If the city wants him to stop doing it, we can not fund it. But it also keeps us from having to come back to council every year to do this.
Okay. The only section, and I think this was discussed last year when this contract came up, under right of substitution, A, except as otherwise provided in the agreement, the consultant, Jack, may at the consultant's absolute discretion engage a third-party subcontractor to perform some or all of the consultant's obligations under this agreement. And then it goes on to say that if the consultant hires a subcontractor, the consultant will pay the subcontractor for its services and the client will pay the compensation to the consultant. And there's no cutoff on how much can be spent. There's no, this is like, he doesn't even have to talk to the mayor, about what that would be. And then the city will be on the line to pay whomever Jack hires. And it may be.
No, I think that's out of he can subcontract this contract to somebody else.
Right.
So he would have up to $25,000 of that contract to be able to do that.
That's not that's not how I read it.
So it's his individual contract. So if he decides to go out and pay, Joe Schmucky to do certain things, he's limited by the amount of money that he's getting paid to by the city. He can't go and hire Joe Schmucky and say, you're going to get $100 bazillion to do these jobs, because he's limited by the amount of his contract. When you subcontract, you're automatically hemmed in left and right by the amount of money that you are given for that contract.
That's not the way I'm reading it.
Well, that's how, then maybe I should have done a better job of making it clear. Because that was my intent of the agreement, is Jack has $25,000 that he can spend each year, either for himself or for individuals that he needs to hire to accomplish some portion of the goal of whatever project he's working on. That has to come out of that $25,000. It's just the responsibility is on him to do that. And the difference is, instead of us cutting a check to Jack, we would cut the check for the bill to the subcontractor.
Could we add a sentence in there without this materially changing the contract that says the maximum amount of all services, either per Jack or per subcontractor, will not exceed $25,000?
If council wants me to amend the agreement to add a cap that says, in no event will the funds expended under this agreement be in excess of $25,000, including expenditures for subcontractors, I certainly can do that.
I think it's like set out in paragraph 5, clearly. Compensation, flat fee, $25,000 per year. There's no ambiguity in that.
But that is not clear that subcontractor fee comes out of his.
We talked about this last year, and I think it was agreed to that if Jack decides, to involve somebody to pay them, it's out of his $25,000, period. I think that's how this is written. If you have a different interpretation, I don't understand.
But and I agree with Mr. Leach and Mr. Skalk said. I do contracts literally daily for my job, and if you scroll down to 20, it says you've got an entire agreement language, anything that's in writing. This entire contract, everything that's written on this document is it's all inclusive. It's in writing, so you can't individualize one paragraph and separate it from the contract. It's written as a total. So if we say the client is to pay $25,000 to the contractor, That would be the maximum amount without an additional written contract expanding that amount of money. He would have to come back to council to change that dollar amount, period. The 25,000 would be the absolute limit that the city would be on the hook for paying Mr. Mathers in this contract.
And I understand that completely. What I'm getting at is a section that says, if the consultant hires a subcontractor, the consultant will pay the subcontractor, which is normally how it would go in a subcontract, right? And the client, the city, will pay the compensation then to the client. So say Jack hires this is how I'm reading it, a subcontractor $20,000 to do something. This says it doesn't necessarily, I mean, in all worlds, yes, a subcontractor's money, so Jack pays the subcontractor. And this says that the city then pays Jack.
Are you making a motion to have that added as an amendment?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Wait a second, I like to get it written down correctly.
There's a motion being made to make an amendment to the current contract to add language limiting it to $25,000.
Well, what I'm,
Is limiting it to 20, that there would be a $25,000 cap. So there's been a motion for an amendment made. Is there?
That's not the, that's
There,
not.
there's
that's
a
not
motion
it.
made. There's
But
a motion made.
For the
Do I have a
amendment.
second?
I did not get to say what I wanted in the amendment, and it was my amendment.
I have a motion on the floor for an amendment to add the language that you stated earlier into the contract.
Is there a reason that I can't speak?
Question asked, question
You
answered.
interrupted me while I was
I
trying to
did,
say.
because you asked the question, it's been answered, now you're going back and asking the same question.
No, you asked if there was an amendment. I was trying to say what I wanted the amendment to be, and you interrupted and said that you wanted it, that it should be, you know, maximum 25.
Ms.
I didn't get
Rhodes,
to speak.
would you like to make an amendment, yes or no?
Yes.
What is the exact language that you would like in your amendment?
I would like to remove the section that says, and client will pay the compensation to the consultant. That makes it a clear contractor or consultant subcontractor role. And I don't have a problem with that at all. And that way, stating $25,000 isn't an option in that, because Jack's compensation is $25,000. So if he's hiring the subcontractor, that's the amount that he could only pay unless he paid out of his own pocket.
So just so I'm clear, you want to remove C1. The consultant will pay the subcontractor for its services and the client will pay the compensation to the consultant.
I think you could leave in the consultant will pay the subcontractor for its services, and then just take out the second section of that line.
So Ms. Rhodes' motion to amend the contract as it's presented is to delete from paragraph C1 under 11C1, and the client will pay the compensation to the consultant. Okay.
There was a motion made, is there a second?
Who made the motion?
Ms. Rhodes.
I second.
Motion second.
Well, now we're gonna have some discussion about that. You're changing the language of the contract in a way that you don't understand. What this says is the consultant will pay the contractor for its services and the client will pay compensation to the consultant. All that means is we are not gonna get billed by a third party. If Jack decides to hire somebody, he pays it. If we pay him according to his regular schedule, so you don't understand what you're asking for, in my opinion. You know, that you're changing or removing language that makes clear. For example, if Jack wanted to hire somebody to go hang door hangers for every commercial business on Grand Central, okay, and he says, I'll pay you $3 for every door hanger you hang, okay? And the kid comes back and he says, I hung 120. Jack owes him that 120 times 3, okay? We pay him just like we normally do. This makes clear it's not our responsibility, if he hires somebody, to do anything except pay him according to paragraph 5.
the paragraph, the second part of that sentence then says that the client, the city, will pay the compensation to the consultant then.
Who's the consultant? Jack's the consultant.
Right, but then it says the client, which is the city.
I just believe you don't understand it.
And I very well may not, maybe we need to get together and we can sit down and have a contract
I just think we need to
I don't know,
go
due
through-
respect for
I
everybody.
just wanna make
But
my
going
point about-
through, you know, you can take a document, give it to an attorney, you get it back, you're not gonna know what the hell it says. Somebody just
Appreciate
take
the
the
insult
time.
there.
No, it's not an insult. Just take the time, go through and hash it off offline. We bring it back at another time to talk about it. I mean, it was the last administration that reviewed the documents, they understood it. This one's got questions. Give her the benefit of the doubt to address the question.
So I have a motion and a second to amend. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion fails.
Mr.
Oh.
Sampson is
I'm
abstaining.
sorry.
All the fails, please retract.
I say we table this and figure it out.
Okay, that wasn't part of the motion, that, the table. So, right?
So we have 5,
Who says no? I need to get that.
6 to 1.
Just so the record's clear, Mr. Sampson is changing is clarifying his vote that he is not in support of the amendment.
Yes, because I'm on a motion that we table this for another discussion time.
Mr. Sampson, I'm sorry, I don't want
I
to.
got it. I'm glad I brought snacks. Councilman Sasha, are you making a motion that we table this?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling this signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion fails 5 to 2. So
Before
I-
we move on, can I make a statement? Please?
Yes.
I want to make a comment to Mr. Mathers. Jack, I hope you understand this is no way personal. This is just me trying to, do what I think needs to be done in the contract. It's not personal.
I understand, it's just business.
Well, I know, but I just want you to
It's
know
not
that.
personal, Jack.
It's not personal.
Mr. Ditzler.
I want to clarify for Tammy the reason I voted the way I did. I understand that you don't deal in contracts like lawyers do. It would be very dangerous for us, those who are not lawyers, to try to change what is established legal language for contracts, and we could really mess something up that way. And so I appreciate your concern and what you're saying about your perception of the ambiguity of the contract. But the contract, if the judge gets this, it's very, very clear that they only pay the $25,000. And the only reason I didn't want to do the amendment was because I don't want to mess up the legal language.
I understand, Mr. Leach, anytime that you disagree with me and you explain that, I learn more. I always appreciate anyone's responses to me and anyone's explanations to me. I mean, that's the only way we do it, so, I appreciate all that.
Call the question.
All those in favor of accepting the resolution approving the position of Jack Mathers to the City of Vienna Project Development Coordinator signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. It passes unanimously. No?
No, it passed.
Oh, did you
They voted.
vote against it?
Sampson and Ms. Rose voted against it, correct?
I voted for it.
Oh, you voted for it? I'm sorry, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm sorry.
What they were saying.
It was slow motion.
Sorry.
And I don't want to appear like I'm trying to override, but when we have the same question, and that I get to make the determination from the seat, if the same question gets asked and it gets answered, then the question gets asked again and it gets answered again with the same answer from more than one individual, at some point we have to cut that off. we can't have the same question that's being repeated over and over and over again just because we don't like the particular answer that's being given. Does that make sense?
It does, I just knew I wanted to reword that and had to share that with anyone, so.
All right. Moving on to item number 5 is to accept the program grant. Take that?
Yep, this is a resolution to accept the program grant. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby authorizes Mayor Chad Everett of the City of Vienna to act on its behalf and enter into a contractual agreement with the Division of Administrative Services, Justice and Community Services to receive and administer grant funds pursuant to provisions of the PRO program.
Do I have a motion to accept the program grant? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Open for discussion.
What is it? I don't know.
Do you want to explain or do you want me?
You're reading, sir.
So this is a grant that is received, and we basically push this through and utilize it for law enforcement. Amy, do you want to speak to it specifically?
Yeah, this program has been going on for several years. This is our school resource officer at Jackson Middle School. This grant is for $15,000. The resolution is giving the mayor the authority to sign the documents so that we can receive the money.
Any other questions? If not, have a motion and second. All those in favor of accepting the grant signify by raising your right hand. All voted in favor. Motion passes unanimously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on to item number 6. The 2025-2026 General Fund Budget, Coal Severance Fund Budget. Do I need to have a motion and accept it? Because this is where we're taking...
If we're going to do the amendments, we need a motion and a second to accept the budget as it is, and then the council can make its amendments.
We're not voting on the budget.
We're not voting, well, you're voting on amendments to the budget.
To the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're voting on the budget as it is tonight with the amendments made for it, with the understanding, in case I didn't make that clear, that there's, the final approval is in 2 weeks. When, if you make amendments to the budget, that Ms. Roberts, our finance director, has an opportunity to go through, make the changes so that the budget balances before we submit it at the third meeting later on.
And those amendments will come during the discussion period.
Yes.
So do I have a motion to accept the 2025-2026 General Fund Budget? I have a motion and a second.
We're motioning to accept it so that we can make amendments to it.
As it is tonight.
As it is.
As this one.
So
It's just discussion. We're not.
It can't be a discussion because we have to make amendments. Discussion and potential vote on the discussion and potential vote on general fund coal severance budget amendments. You're going to vote for the budget as it is tonight so that you can make the amendments that you want to it so that the final budget can be made in 2 weeks. So this is the opportunity that you have, each of you as council members have, to make changes that you want to the budget that has been presented to you.
So I would like to make a motion to amend capital.
Oh, no, we're not there yet.
No.
We haven't gotten there yet.
You're very excited about it. I can tell. I know, he's so excited. He's got it written out and everything. There's probably pictures of the site. It's going to be great. So we got a motion and a second. Now open for discussion. This discussion is to be utilized to make your recommendations for amendments to the budget.
And I have an amendment. I'm going to make a motion to amend the capital request for the Parks Department, eliminating the rec building flooring and adding 3 roofing projects to line item 01-54058 in the amount of $22,447.
I'll second.
And
It's been seconded.
It's been seconded. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
And I'm just going to go ahead and discuss so I don't have to do this every time. Basically what we're doing is we're getting rid of redoing the rec building flooring, which I have the approval from the Parks Board and the VRIA, their blessing to remove that from the budget, which is the $37,569 line item. And in doing so, we're going to be doing 3 roofing projects in the total of that amount, and also adding a tractor, which I'm going to talk about later. But basically, all of this zeroes out. So we're not changing, we're not adding money, we're not subtracting money, we're just moving money around inside parks. So there's 3 motions total that I have to make tonight. I just made the first one, and there's my discussion. Back to you, Mayor.
The total of his roofing projects are $22,447.
Say that again.
The total of the roofing projects are $22,447. So he's removing from that line item $37,569 and replacing it with $22,447.
$37,969.
$569.
$569.
He has it in his notes, if you'd like to copy
I
it.
appreciate it. I'm gonna copy his notes.
There you go.
And then we're adding 22,447.
Correct.
Sorry, I don't hear as good.
I should have just read the rest of what Ms. Roberts wrote down for me.
Go. Can we deal with these all in one?
I think it would be better if you just dealt with them one at a time. I'm sorry. It'll just be easier to keep track of.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to remove $27,000.
$37,569 by eliminating the rec building floor and adding 3 roofing projects, line item 015408, the amount of $22,447, with a balance moving to.
Don't
just
even
stays
go
there.
there. Don't.
Okay, I'm not going there.
Okay.
Let's not talk about that right now.
Yeah.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously.
I'd like to make a motion to increase line item 540-59 by $15,122 for the purchase of a replacement 25 horsepower tractor.
I'll second that.
So this $15,122 was the remaining amount between the $37,569 and the $22,447.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
What's the issue with the current truck?
It's broken.
How old?
Old enough to be broken. Do you have the exact year?
Broken one's 18 years old. One that we do use is the new one. It's about 14 years old. And we have another one 16 years old that basically depends on what day of the week it is.
Is there a reason why we don't rotate these in and out like we do cars and some of the other stuff?
I think it's just based upon, probably on usage and maintenance.
Right.
They're not limited like our vehicles, like our police force is limited by the amount of mileage that's on them. You have to rotate them in and out. Mr. Metz's vehicles, he's got some very old vehicles in the fleet. When it comes to equipment, because the equipment doesn't fall under the same guidelines and under mileage and usage, I think they just utilize them until we get to this point and we have to replace. They milk them as far as we can. Do you have anything specific you want to say to that, Steve?
No, I'm good.
Any other discussion? Having none, we have a motion and a second to accept the amendment. Do you want to read the exact?
I just have a motion to increase line item 540-59 by $15,122 to purchase and replace a 25 horsepower tractor. Okay.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same.
All right, I have a motion to decrease line item 540-15.
This then gives you in that line item the amount of the tractor.
Any other discussion? Having no other discussion, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
I'm done.
You're done. Do we have any other amendments that would like to be brought forward?
This is amendments to the overall budget?
Yes.
Well, going through, I started the public forum about looking at ratios and stuff for our city. I mean, talking about it after the fact, the last item isn't really the place to talk about it. I mean, going forward, we as a city need to look at how much in different buckets we have. Eventually, you're gonna come to the point where you're not gonna do anything except possibly say, hey, we need to have a city tax now, which ain't the way to go. You have your largest income that comes in is your sales tax, your B&O, and your property tax. Those are your three biggest incomes. Everything else is small. You get a 2% utility tax that comes in. So you gotta look at the different buckets and what can you and we do structurally different. As opposed to, I approve, I approve, I approve. This is something that's not easy.
I disagree with your statement in the sense that I didn't just, I approve, I approve, I approve. I sat with each department head, meticulously going through their requests, along with Ms. Roberts, when we did this. This was not a blanket or a rubber stamp in any capacity. If you will see, budgets went down from where they were last year. I understand what you're saying about employment, and Ms. Roberts and I had this conversation this morning about other municipalities. Do you have those numbers with you today?
I do.
Can you tell me what Parkersburg ratio is on employment?
Parkersburg's salaries and benefits make up 62.5% of their general fund budget in comparison to 51.3% for Vienna.
So we are less than what Parkersburg's is.
Yes, and there's a rationale that you should stay, when you're budgeting for a municipal government, there's a rationale that you should stay below 70%. If you're a healthy municipality, the benchmark is you should be below 50%. Vienna is at 70%. Vienna is at 51.3. Parkersburg's at 62.5. It's not a competition. I just want you to understand the benchmarks and where we are in comparison.
Wasn't Marietta like 70 plus?
Marietta was over 80. Yes.
Now going through, I understand there's certain benchmarks. Have you driven around Vienna? When I moved here in '96, it looked a lot better than it does today. This is not the same city that I moved here in 1996. So at the end of the day, you added $1.1 million towards payroll as permanent employees. When you look at stuff like that, and
I did not add those.
I understand you didn't. It happened between 2012 and 2016. I'm trying to figure out what was the actual date. If you look at that, you start asking yourself the question, what can I do structurally different? You have to make put the employees aside, put emotions aside, strictly look at the numbers. You have benefits, which we don't have yet, by the way.
Are you making an amendment or are we trying to have a discussion?
I'm trying to have a discussion. I'm trying to get some common sense into the discussion.
I understand that, but this is open for amendments currently.
I understand that.
So we're not having a discussion about the budget process.
Then we ought to go through over the last couple of years, I've seen this. It comes down to this, and it's going to be 5-2-4-3, and it's going to just pass through. I ran for office for a reason. I want to make a difference. And we all should make a difference that you guys are sitting up there. Going through and adding costs into our structure is wrong.
We decreased our budget this year.
Chad, it's not the case. Look at the numbers if you want. Personally,
we decreased our budget this year.
Not a lot.
Did we decrease our budget this year?
Somewhat, not a
So
lot.
you cannot make an accusation that we have added exorbitant amounts of money. And again, we're not having a budget discussion right now, Mr. Sasson. We're having amendments being brought to the budget itself. Are you bringing any amendments?
Yeah, okay, let's throw an amendment out there.
Okay,
Why don't we go in and address salaries and benefits and see if we can cut it by 10% by addressing the deductible that's gotta be paid, looking at the carrier that's coming in, and so on. And our high-paid employees should be used in those type of roles that they need to be doing. Mowing grass, you can contract out for a service. Why are you having stuff out like that? So
are you
going
making
through,
an amendment?
I'm making a motion, 10%.
There's a motion.
There's a motion to amend the budget to cut 10% from salaries and benefits in each department. In what?
Are you wanting it across the board in every department?
Across the board.
So, okay, in all city departments.
You're only gonna do that
Public
by looking
works,
at benefits
streets.
and other compensation. As a city, you're paying 9% on 401As instead of a 401K. I work for a $3 billion company.
We have a
with 5%
403B, which is the government version. We have to have a 403B. We have no option other than that because we are not in the state plan. We cannot have a 401K or a 401A.
So what's the most you can pay out, the government says?
I don't know what the most is, but we're far below that.
9%.
So, I'm sorry, we've got a motion on the floor to make an amendment to reduce pays and benefits across the board in every department by 10%.
That's correct. That's, as I understand the motion, Mr. Sassen.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second? Having failed to receive a second, the motion dies. Are there other amendments that you would like to make?
What's the point?
Can I say something? Just interject here. I think what Henry is getting at has some merit. However, I think that the timing is off. We're just a couple of weeks from having to finalize the budget. If this is something that the city wants to look at in the future, this needs to be started months and months and months prior to a budget process. And we need to do a full evaluation, time and work. How much time does someone spend working? What are their benefits? Where can we cut? What is the norm? I mean, there is so much that can be done to look at that, but that's a long process, and it's not something that we can do this fast.
So let me say, we are 20% under what the recommended percentage is for salaries. We are 20% under what the recommended percentage is of salaries. I don't comprehend how you can look at that and say that that's a bad thing.
You're only paying $700,000 a year for streets to upgrade.
We're paying
Look at everything else.
in the budget for $900,000.
Oh, wow, an extra $200,000. Sorry, Amy.
I'm just trying to get
I'm
the
not being a
numbers.
smart
I think
ass.
you're out of order.
I'm sorry.
I am done with this.
I'm trying
If
to
you're
get the
going to
numbers.
stand here and talk, you're going to be respectful and you're going to do it. This is a budget process that we have went through, we have worked on, and I will not, I repeat, not have our staff, have our department heads, and have other council members disrespected during this process. I sat here and I watched it go on for 4 years. It will not go on under my administration. Have I made myself clear? There was a motion made. It failed to have a second. Move on. Are there other amendments that you'd like to see made to this budget? This is not a discussion. Do you have other motions for amendments to the budget?
No, because the same thing will
Do you have other
No,
emotions?
sir.
Thank you. Is there other discussion?
Can I ask this question, Amy?
Sure.
I think you had talked at one point, if you wanted to make an amendment, you needed to already know where the money would come from to pay for that.
Right, and Councilman Morrison's, when he made his motions,
Yes, I
he
noticed
took
that.
it from one to another.
So if I don't have that yet, I shouldn't make a mo, can we do this in a different meeting, or is this the day for the amendments?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you you can't make an amendment on the 27th when we vote on this. What I am saying is it's hard to get a good copy for you to vote on. But hey, I'll make it
If
work.
I have an idea, maybe go ahead and send it to you, even if I don't do it.
Sure.
Okay.
I would, Ms. Rhodes, I would suggest, and this is the route that Mr. Morrison went. He brought me his recommendation for the amendment. He brought me how he was going to get to that number. Then we sat and we discussed it, and that's how that got brought forward. If you're not prepared this evening, although we would rather not do them in the next round, but if you would like to address the potential amendment in the next meeting, I would, highly suggest that you do the same route so that we can look at that and we can find out what the true justifications are.
Sounds great, thank you.
But I will absolutely, be willing to change.
Thank you.
Are there any other amendments that you'd like to bring forward in your budget this evening? Hearing none, we've had a motion and a second.
This is a motion to send to Amy the budget that council has amended this evening so that she can prepare it and have a final budget for the last hearing, our budget process.
All those in favor of accepting and moving forward with the budget signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes 6-1. Now, moving on to item number 7, discussion of budget levers. Mr. Sassen, this is something you asked.
Yeah, I asked for this to be put on, because this goes back to what Tammy was talking about. Every year, we sit in these chambers, where prior people did, and they talked about, we need to change, we need to look at this, we need to look at that. The work of structurally, what does the city want to look like? What's our goals? What's our objectives? What do the different ratios look like? And if you do that work up front, then when you come to the budgeting process, you're going to have a meaningful budget. So when you look at your income that's coming in, it's pretty flat. You got your B&O tax, you got your sales tax, you got your municipality tax, which is 2%, and then you got some other stuff that comes in with, as well as property tax. That's it. Then as a city, you have to go through and see what you can do. When you go in to the budget process, then you can say, okay, what can we do? If the city relies on grants to help run the city, we got problems. You heard last week when I was talking with Mr. Metz, Pond Run, we're waiting on funds for, possible grant. People that get impacted by Pond Run, they can care less. They have issues they got to deal with. We as a city have an obligation. That's why I ran. I want to make a change. I want to make a difference. Sure, don't seem that way. So there's different levers. You look at stuff, and it's what I brought up. You have so many people. Why do you have so many people? Do you need to have that many people? Look at the compensation package that you have. You got to do all that front work November, December, January. Not mid-March. That's what I'm.
And I can understand that. The issue is, we all came into office in January. We have no availability to have done that in October, November, or December.
No, but you could have done it with us in January and February. We kept talking about it. What's our plan? What's our plan? And I understand you met with the department heads. Nothing against the department heads, but we have issues.
What are your issues?
I'm telling you, are you fixing the roads the way they should? We got 900 some bucks.
Would we have the availability to complete $2 million worth of projects? We don't know. If you listened, as others listened, I said, if Mr. Metz gets to a point that he is out of $900,000, then he comes back and he asks for it. The problem is nobody's seeming to understand or listen to that point. This isn't cutting people off at the knees and saying this is all we're doing, but we have to have a starting point, and I'm not over going to inflate the budget on projects that we can't obtain. Yes, we want to make a difference. Yes, we want to make changes. This is where it starts, and this is where it goes. But we keep wanting to draw back to the point that you want to say, we're not allotting enough money for this. We're not doing this.
No, I'm saying you got 11.8 million bucks. Whether you come back the second time or third time, like you said, you got 11.8 million bucks. How are we best spending that 11.8 million bucks? If you don't have costs in other areas, we have more money to work with.
And your answer is terminating personnel.
I'm not saying terminate it. Take a look at what you got. I know we inherited 79 people. Do you really need 79 people? Why were they brought on to start with? The city is flat. Our population has not grown. Where are all these extra costs coming from?
But our workload has.
With the same amount of people?
With the same amount of people and the items and projects that we have going on, yeah, if you were to look at me today and say, Chad, you need to reduce 10%. And I looked across the board right now and I said 10%, that's roughly, 12 employees that we have? Who do I take it from? Do I take it from Public Parks that is working? Do I take it from Public Works, which is highly overtaxed in working? Do I take it from our police force and leave our citizens and businesses open and have to cut back? Do I take it from the city building and I reduce and I put all the work on Miss Roberts in finance? Do I cut our contracts and have to find ways to keep our buildings clean because we don't have ways to do that? I sit in this office every day and I see the operation to this. If I saw that there was a unneeded position that somebody was just twiddling their thumbs in the corner, you bet your bottom dollar I'd be the first person to call it out. Within the past 3 months, I have not seen that happen. I have not had any department heads say, look, we're overstaffed. We don't have, we have more people than we have for work. I understand what you're saying and what I have done. And if you look, we have reduced the budget. And it's a little crazy that and I said, you say, yeah, but it's just a little. The fact is, we didn't increase the budget. We reduced the budget, and we plan on managing our funds, and I plan on being even more particular with how our funds get spent and what they get spent on, so that we can reduce our overall costs.
Go ahead. I'll just wait till you're finished about it.
Oh, so we did reduce the budget. This year, we reduced the budget. That's a step in the right direction. We're getting programs completed. That is a step in the right direction. We are increasing information management, customer service, and accountability. That is change in the right direction. So I apologize if I don't share the same mindset that we're doing the exact same thing, because from my vantage point, from my office, we are not doing the exact same thing. And if you talk to the majority of our population, you will see that they are recognizing that we are not doing the exact same thing. We are making changes. We are moving forward. They may not be as dramatic as you would like, but we are making those changes.
I'm not looking for dramatics. What are goals and objectives of the city? What is your vision for this city? Where do you want to take this city?
And I understand that. Recorder Smith.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple things, and I know when someone believes in something strong enough, the passions come through, and I appreciate the passions, but we need to remember that our emotions need to be on even keel on this. I look at the strength of the city, and I think, to me, when I hear council speaks about our goals and objectives and things like that, it's important. Don't get me wrong. It's very, very important. But that is something that probably HR needs to get involved with, finance director. You need to go in and have a visit with them and try to lay a plan out for next year, because I think this year, quite frankly, is too late, okay? I look at the strength of the city based on what the city has in reserves. The Governmental Finance Officers Association, they recommend just something under 20% in reserves, money set aside to be able to continue to operate the city in case something comes up. Health insurance, we had reserves in that, and it was an actuarial function on that. Your business probably has some sort of reserve, or if you you have down years, you got money you can get to get you through those down years. This city's reserves is very, very strong. It is well above 90%. I think that's phenomenal. I think that could be an opportunity for this council to perhaps look and see, okay, what's the maximum we want to have in reserves? So we may be able to release some of that money. But I look at the strength. So I understand, I hear what council's saying, but my own personal opinion is this city's in strong in shape, financial shape. It's in strong shape as far as employees go. They're hard workers. They're great workers. I appreciate the mayor's support for the city. He verbally says it over and over and over again. And I think we as council supports that. We support our employees, at least I do. I want to listen to them. I don't want to micromanage things up here. I want to listen to them, trust them. They have a budget they have to work under. And I know council says it's, our budget, our income getting in is flat. And I think the mayor and the department heads realize that, or understands that, and actually come in a budget lower than last year. So to me, I give them all A's on this. I think you've done a phenomenal job. There may be some minor tweaking here and there, but I think when it's all said and done, our budget's still going to be close to $12 million. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Just one thing or two. Goals and objectives, and I apologize, Henry. We all got caught up in the moment. But so if you look at the contract we just approved with County Economic Development and with Jack Mathers, and you look at the goals there, when you want to talk about the city being flat, if this isn't the place that you came to in 1996, then where can you make a difference? You can, I've always, every year that I've been on this council, I've been a staunch defender of our employees, their benefits. So for example, somebody that works for the city of Vienna as an equipment operator is a classification, whatever, 5. All right, and their hourly rate might be $23 an hour, okay? In the private sector, they'd probably make 30. But our benefit structure, our health insurance, our 401k also is very important. We do have a population in our work. That's the pros and cons. The experience, the institutional knowledge, all of those things are very valuable to the city, but again, we're getting, and I see younger guys in public works. I saw some at McDonald's the other day. I'm like, hey, there's some young guys. But anyway, so
they're in Vienna. They really are.
Yeah. So but when you look at the goals that are in Lindsay's agreement, business and economic development, cultural development, residential development. It's like, and this is not about hiring me, but I have set a personal example of what I want to see in Vienna. All right, I invested heavily in an office for my son to move into. I bought another building that I did not want, and I want to see, and I'm looking at, so like going to every one of these properties and saying, what is every single, which the list is on here. Let's get these properties full. Residentially, the 2022 housing study says that we have a housing shortage. And I believe that somebody told me, I don't even know if it was a council meeting or what, but Millstone is in city limits, correct?
That's correct.
And there are 70 undeveloped housing sites up there, okay?
I don't know why. I was just up there today.
I drove there yesterday. I was talking to Tony on the phone.
A couple houses. I think there's just a couple houses.
Yeah, there's 3.
Not many.
Nice, but only 3. But also, it's like that house right up at like 58th Street. Somebody just bought it. They put the new roof on it. They're, and encouraging that kind of development. When you look at some of the models that we talked about last year, last term, like that Brad Smith, he's in West Virginia. What programs? Work from home. I think that's where we're focused, not adding fees to our city if we can absolutely avoid it. Water and sewer, we have such infrastructure needs. I don't think there's going to be any way around it. But but the last time we did that was probably 2016, and that was the first time in 13 years that we had raised water and sewer rates. The services that we provide to our city are a big part of why people want to live in Vienna. All right, the safety, the fires. Our fire department, I think, is a big important part of the focus we need to make in recruiting volunteers and doing everything we can to keep from going to a paid fire department. I've said this in a broken record maybe. With the decline in the attitude of our society and our culture to be participating in service industries, everything from the community service to volunteer fire department, that's something that we can focus on. So if you want to set goals and objectives, in my view, it's not cutting our employees or cutting our services. It's getting that revenue you're talking about, those sources improved. I mentioned in the prior meeting, our mall is, virtually full. I don't even know if there's a single, maybe a restaurant, not more than one or two empty, but that's rare. And that's something to protect and to promote. People in Vienna, shop in this city, do business with your neighbors, come to Vienna, live here, bring your business here, support entrepreneurs, the ITC Center that's coming. What can we do and say, for example, one of the things that Sixmo that had the Vitrolite building and they abandoned their project, but a part of their goal was to have like a little bit of an incubator in there. And so identifying every property we have in Vienna, and when I saw the 4 red signs and the laundromat on either side, I called Jack and I said, let's put that on our website and let people know, any way we can and help those small business people. And when you talk about grants, and opportunities like that, well, we know that's a challenging time right now on the national scope, but those are opportunities, and we did lose an opportunity with Long Run. So I'm not going to go on and on. I've made these points before, but this is in these documents that we just approved. And if you want to set goals and objectives, that's where they need to be.
Mr. Dietzler? I think that as council people, we have to understand, as Jim has said, the things that actually get done in this city, and I don't think as a council person, I should say, well, the city's just not doing things right. If we do not have a specific viable suggestion of something to do, I think I would be wasting your time. We have these department heads that know what they're doing, and Chad has taken his time to find out everything about it. We had last week, and I missed it because I had a funeral to go to. We had presentations, and you can't just say, well, we have too many employees. The employees are who provide the services to this city. And you can't say, well, the city can't depend on grants. If we didn't get those grants, we'd have a lot less that we could do. I mean, it's not that we're relying on them, it's that we're making a positive motion forward and getting resources. I don't want to come across as criticizing any individual. I just want to say that if someone wants to improve the city, he or she needs to actually find out what the city does, what these employees are doing, and talk to the department heads, as Chad has already done, and see if he can have some positive suggestions rather than just coming in and giving speeches.
Through all of this process, we all come into this. I don't think anyone up here on this podium is here for any other reason than to better the city. And I think we're all trying to take the best steps that we can to be able to make that happen. Now, it is very easy to sit from other vantage and point out a differing opinion, but because our opinion is different, doesn't mean that they're wrong, and doesn't mean that we're not doing the correct thing. Because opinions, we all have them. Each of us have them. Tammy and I sit in my office she's probably had more seat time in my office than Russ, I think. But yeah, and phone time, she'll say, I just need to talk for a second. 2.5 hours later, we'll get off the phone. I am more than willing, as she can attend, and witness to. I am more than willing to sit and have any conversations that you want that have a constructive outline and outcome to them. Again, Tammy and I have sat for hours, if you accumulate it all. But that's the point of all of this, is to be able to have discussion without trying to place the blame on any one person, and trying to figure out the best way we can do these things. And I'm obviously using Tammy as an example, or Miss Rhodes as an example. We've been able to find a lot of common ground when we sit and do that, and we get it done. That's what governing collectively as a body requires for us to do. And I am happy to entertain any conversation that individuals would like to have outside of this council chambers. And I would gladly welcome the opportunity to sit down and talk about any differencing of opinions and future goals and projects or things that we can make. But I just want to encourage that, because at the end of the day, this is our home. I was born and raised in Vienna. I live here. My family has business here. I love this city. And I'm doing everything that I can every day to make it a better place to raise families that want businesses to come, and to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayer money we are entrusted with. And I'm doing that every day and at each night. And I think, Tammy, you've said this more than once. If I can lay my head down on my pillow at night and feel good about what I did, then at the end of the day, that's what it was all for. And I think that's what we're all doing. So I just want to encourage, those conversations to be healthy, constructive, and to have good outcomes overall. And that's in the budget as a whole, in those various discussions. Is there any other discussion on line item number 7? Hearing none, moving on to council comments, which I think we're already into. Does any council member have any closing council comments?
Not really a comment, but March 27th, I believe we intend to have Thrasher Group come and present on special landing. And Rod was asking, and I wasn't sure whether we need a resolution in advance of that, and what we're actually seeking to accomplish when they, because I think they're coming with an estimated cost in presentation.
Yeah, if you're going to do something that involves spending money or approving a contract or something like that, then we're going to need something. I need to know so I can.
So we need to define the scope of what they're. I think they're coming to like a scope of cost. Paragraph D.
We're not agreeing to a cost. They're just saying this is what we project.
Just what do we need to do to prepare the agenda for that meeting? I don't know exactly.
If they're just giving us information, then we can just put it on as a discussion.
We need to talk to Sam Rich at Thrasher. I talked to them briefly as to what the next step they were suggesting, and it was come to council, present the concept after the public meeting, the steering committee meetings, maybe an estimated scope, and I don't know if then we're looking for a resolution if we like what they say, to say, okay, let's go to the next step. That's, I hope, is what we're going to.
I think that's where we're at.
Right, that's what I think too, but we just need to make sure we get that.
Or I understand that.
Right.
Mr. Mathers, have you been in any other conversations with them?
No, I think what Jim said is exactly where we're at right there.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So just some comments, and first off, I just wanted to say thanks, a special thanks to the department heads, especially Mr. Roberts. This was a long process. I'm sure everybody's, happy to see it come to an end. There's a lot of time. And mostly I just wanted to say like how blessed we are as the city of Vienna to have, the experience that we have in these department heads right now. It really makes our jobs easy. I'm not kidding. Whenever I was reading these motions, it was basically literally handed to me. I'm still learning, and it's been a joy to work with them. And one of the things I take from this is that it was really a group effort. It was something that it wasn't one individual department head sat down. Mayor was heavily involved in all this. Everybody was working together to kind of get this. Okay, sorry. It was a group effort.
Mr. Joe Brookover, would you please silence all electronic devices?
I did.
Go ahead.
Does that include awful?
That's it.
But the department's heads, they had to work with their employees. It was a group effort to get to this point. And I wanted to point that out. I know a lot of people worked really hard, and every single one of them, was working with Ms. Roberts and the mayor to get to this point. And I just wanted to make sure that they understood we as a council, and I think I speak for everyone up here, really appreciate the time and effort that y'all put in. Y'all do a great job for this city, and we really are blessed to have the heads that we have. Moving on, there is a kind of changing gears here. This is on my heart, talking about goals and objectives. One of the things that I came into this seat, I was seeking and trying to find ways that we might be able to see a cultural shift. I knew that I wasn't going to be something I was going to be able to do on my own, but I've been blessed to find the right people along the way that kind of have the same vision as I do. And I read this statistic the other day, and it broke my heart. It says the Jason Foundation, according to this nonprofit foundation, 3,703 grades suicide in America. 3,703 between in high school age attempt suicide daily in the United States of America. And that's not something. Sometimes it's I'll think, okay, that's not Vienna, right? But if you look back, you can find instances where we have not only attempts, but unfortunate, we lose children to this, and it's hitting home. But I want to say thanks to the Wood County Prevention Coalition and a partnership between the Wood County Prevention Coalition and the Vienna Rec Association working together. They have put together a program that's going to be launching here at the end of April. April 28th is going to be their first training. And it's called Backpack Basics to Building Healthy Relationships. It's for adults working with teens and helping them recognize these children that are maybe struggling, having these thoughts of suicide and how to deal with it. I grew up in the 90s, and this wasn't something that was ever talked about. It wasn't prevalent, but it's really turned around, and it's really taken off, unfortunately. I just wanted to commend the Wood County Prevention Coalition and the VRIA for working together and putting this program together. And I think it's going to be something great. I want you all to look out for it because I think it's going to take off. It's going to be a program that's offered specifically to people who are working with the youth. But I hope to see adults that have kids, adults that babysit, that run daycares, anybody that deals with kids or sees kids on a regular basis. It's going to inevitably help them. And I think having a program like this in our city is going to help us see these issues and hopefully have an impact on these children and see, as these kids grow up, we see a generational change. But it starts with us. It starts with each of us, the citizens of Vienna right now. I was just really happy to see this program. Like I said, April 28th is the very first training, and there's going to be a lot more to come. So that's all I got.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say something. For years before I filed for office, I would come to public forum. And most of the time, when you come to public forum, at least for me, I was looking for things that the city was doing wrong that needed to be done different. And, you know, if I found something that was good, there were times that I spoke about that too. I ran because I wanted to be on the other side. You know, I wanted to do something and make a positive difference. And although we may bicker and fight, you know, we may have words, we may have different opinions. This is the greatest group of people. I mean, everybody is great. I mean, I enjoy working with every one of you. And it doesn't matter whether or not, you know, we butt heads, you know, I still like you at the end of the day. So, you know, I mean, that's just the way it goes, and that's the way I am. And I want to say I appreciate all your feedback. I appreciate everything that everyone says, and I really appreciate the fact that I get to work with you all.
Just real quick, you got 2 announcements? Okay. City Council had the opportunity this week to attend and do a walkthrough through the North Star Child Advocacy Center. Greg, who's the director of that, comes and he always speaks very passionately about that. And although when somebody describes something, you can't know really what it means. I envision something completely different. And we had the opportunity, myself, Tammy, Rod, Tony, we were not in quorum, we were not voting on anything, let me say that.
You're allowed to be together.
Yeah, we're allowed to be together. They took us through that facility and they took us through what they deal with on a daily basis. And it tore at my heart to hear the things that they dealt with. But the North Star Child Advocacy Group has some amazing individuals that work for them. They are passionate about what they are doing. They are absolutely in love with helping children. And I'm just very thankful that Greg and all of the staff there were so accommodating to the Vienna City Council to take us on the tour and to show us around. And I, for one, after seeing that, are 110% committed to continuing our support as we move forward. And my thoughts just go out to each and every one of them. But thank you. You had a couple of announcements, Recorder Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let everybody know, we get a week off next week. It's probably a good time. So there'll be no special council meeting on Thursday, March 20th. Again, no special council meeting. And secondly, just to let everybody know, the state auditor's office will be conducting the city's annual financial audit beginning the first week of April.
And they will be here several months.
Are they here every day? Like
They will be here every day.
Yes, but they have a ton of work to do, so.
We can't interfere in that. We are here simply for what, almost 2.5 months, something like that?
Yeah.
Every year.
And this isn't our opportunity to ask them questions. This is for them to go through very meticulous, all of our books and to do all of those things with that. With that being done,
Please.
Yeah.
I've been doing this job I've been a prosecutor in Wood County for 19.5 years. I've been an attorney for 20. I've been the city attorney for 17 years. In my day job, I've tried robbers, murderers, rapists, child molesters, and what have you. Just like Harry, and Jim to some extent. It's been a while for both of you, right? One of the reasons I do this job is that I get to do this job is because I enjoy being part of something that's positive. I get to take part in, for my little part, positive things that I see. I get to work with great people, Ms. Roberts, Mr. Black, Mr. Metz, Chief Powell, who I've known since he was a baby patrolman. He started almost the same time that I did. Chief Scholl's always been over me. Luther, Dwayne, Flutie, and so forth. The point is, I've worked with, I know a lot of bad people, and I've dealt with a lot of bad people, and I know a lot of really good people, and I'm very fortunate to work with a lot of good people here. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is a trend, and I don't know whether this comes from social media or what, but We're very good about communicating with our families, even though it doesn't seem like it. We know when our children make credit card transactions and our daughter bought a Snickers bar or somebody bought ice cream, because it comes through on the credit card transaction. On the national level. The disconnect that I keep seeing over and over is of those three rings is that middle ring, that village ring. Used to, when you had a problem with your neighbor blew leaves on your lawn, what did you do? You went over to your neighbor, you said, hey, you think you could not blow the leaves on my yard? And your neighbor said, hey, I'm really sorry, I didn't even know that I did that. And you talk to each other. And now people get on Facebook or Nextdoor or whatever, and instead of talking to their neighbor, they say, my neighbor is just, can you believe the jerk did this? And he put that on there, and they get all this feedback from 15 different people. They're like, yeah, what a jerk. Well, I've started to see that infect our local interactions, the village part that we live in. And I've seen it over the last few years in council meetings as well. One of the things that I've learned as a prosecutor and doing a little bit of defense work is it's a lot easier to tear things down and poke things than it is to build things. As a prosecutor, I have to build things. I have to build a case based on evidence, brick by brick, until there's something that I can show a jury that this is what happened and this is what the evidence supports. And as a defense attorney, one of your jobs is to poke those bricks and maybe make the wall come down. I ask that when we have these meetings, that we remember, and I'm saying this as the counselor part of your council, the city attorney, that we remember that the folks that we're talking to are our neighbors. They're the people who's actually we're trying to remember to do good things for. Like Jim and Tony, my kids are, well, grandkids now for Jim, I suppose, but he wants his children to stay here. I want to take part in, part of the reason that I want to take part in city government the way that I do is because I have a law degree. And I want to help the city do positive things so that my children don't have to go to North Carolina or Florida like the job offers were for when I was a kid. That's why I went to law school, so I didn't have to move, right? So I just want you to remember when you come up for public comment, when you have discussion with the other council members, that these are your neighbors. We're all here, our department heads are here, our elected officials are here, the people that come to these meetings. Just remember, you're neighbors. And the first thing is don't let that feeling that you have when you see something you don't like on Facebook be the thing that occupies your real life, the space that you live in. Remember, when we have a disagreement up here, we're okay. It's okay to have a disagreement, but remember, it's your neighbor. You're going to see him tomorrow or the next day, and you might say things that you regret, or in a way that you might regret, that you're going to then have to look at that person, and maybe you held on to that feeling for longer than it deserves. But my suggestion is try to be positive, try to bring positive things. If you want to change things, instead of sitting somewhere where you have the ability to change things and just saying no to everything, go, okay, I don't know if I agree with that, but what about this idea? What about that idea? What about something else? What if we try this? And maybe instead of coming at it from a no, we come at it from a yes. And then hopefully, if all of us can do that, and then my kids don't have to move to North Carolina. So,
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Auditors are for 2024-2025 year.
For last year, yes.
For last year through June or whatever.
Whatever yeah.
23, 24.
And we just actually finished and reviewed the last one, and I had to go through all those documents. And we came out clean and well. So, all is good. Meeting adjourned. Amen.